So welcome everyone, welcome to the tape group, to the World is New tape group, where we use the book. Here it is. The World is New. And so today we dive into another chapter, Conscious Oneness. And that's a great theme, of course. It's a great, possibility to take a look at it and actually come into the experience of it. And so there are some interesting expressions that I found by Joel, and we're going to take a look at that. So it's great to continue this discovery, and using the book is one thing, and the tape that we chose today, or what came to me today to share, is also just about the same title: Conscious Union, Conscious Contact. The Consciousness of Oneness is the original title, I think. So we're looking at that. We're listening to Joel in that, the last half hour of the tape. And so first we always begin with a bit of like, hey, where are we? Oh yeah, wait a minute. Yeah, it's time to settle down, just to relax a little bit, to not forget to breathe, and to it's like, oh yeah, wait a minute, this is a tape group. We're not achieving anything, we're not doing anything in that sense. We relax. It's not a doing. To realize, say, conscious oneness with your Creator is not a doing on your part. Now this seems to be the hardest practice, because we love to do something for it, and we love to be busy with it, but here it's different. So to allow yourself to, in fact, come into an acceptance, that's quite a beautiful, very beautiful action. There's already like a surrender in that. Like, oh no, it's not what I thought it was. Wait a minute, I just lost it again. So it's like I come into the remembrance of actually not doing anything. It's like God knows his way to you since he created you. It's like you're not self-made. You're not this image or idea of yourself that you might think that you are. No, you are created, whole and perfect. And so this is our time to be in contact with your source. Hey, not that is not the case in other times, but you might not be fully aware of it. That can very well happen, and we know this. We know this, and that's why we are in a so-called spiritual path, and hoping by reading, listening, and studying, and discovering that we actually come into an experience that is so familiar to us that we recognize that there's in fact nothing else but the love of God. The rest was all like a misinterpretation. Like that was not what we thought it was. Like it's mesmerism. There is only the love of God. There is no exception to that. And I cannot think about that. But I become it when I realize that. And then I realize, yes, indeed. Indeed, that is the only real thing about me. So this is what we not do, in fact. This is what we do in this. We remember this, our conscious union with God, our, consciousness of total inclusion, of complete restfulness, peace, joy without opposite, complete sustenance, complete, everything, in fact. This is your moment to experience yourself as whole. And that's exactly the remembrance that is being offered by Joel, by me in this moment. It's like, yep, this is our practice. Yes. Now you can allow yourself to become whole again. Even for just a second, even for just a moment. Forget everything that you have ascribed to yourself, or letting go of everything that you valued a moment ago, that was so important a moment ago. It's like, no, 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 no. The love of God is everything, and you're made by that. You are that. So all the other considerations are attempts, in fact, to deny this love of God, to focus on this little contracted idea and making it your whole world. It's like, no, 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 no. Release, relax. No, it's not it. It's not it. So that's so great and liberating about this is, in fact, nothing but a great release of, it's not this, it's not this. Release, relax. No, all these ideas are not true. No, it has nothing to do with the way that you see yourself. Yeah, breathe and relax. Yeah. So it's like you came to this point. That's wonderful. That was the only requirement. Come to the point where you recognize, oh yeah, all that wasn't it. What have I been trying to do? In fact, effectively trying to deny the love of God that is omnipresent, everywhere, in other words, that is always with me and I cannot lose, that is omnipresent, omniscient, like it's everything there is. It's everything there is, and it's all-knowingness, and it has nothing to do with intellect or any kind of limited idea that you can come up with. Well, that's an ultimate release. It's like, yeah, what is, and the rest is not. Now, that takes some practice, doesn't it? So we make attempts on a daily basis to in fact let that happen. By our practice, by meditating, by calming our minds, by taking a moment of prayer, you could say, by coming into a meditative state, by starting to listen to what is being said. When there's an expression that starts to resonate with you, I and my Father are one, I have to experience that in some way. I want to know what that is. Or my conscious oneness with God constitutes my being. Oh yeah, I like a lot of that. I want to experience that. I want to know what that is. I want to feel that in every breath that I take, in every step. I want to feel that. Well, that is great, because that's exactly what we're going to practice in this meditation. And so I will share with you some words that I found from Joel in the chapter Conscious Oneness. I think it's chapter 4, isn't it? You know that truth does not overcome error. That God does not heal disease. That there is no greater power overcoming or destroying negative powers. You now understand the meaning of oneness. One power without an opponent. One being and non-human. One law, and that spirit. This constitutes your healing consciousness. Is this clear to you? Then be about your Father's business, so that you too can say, go and shew John again those things which we do hear and see. The blind receive their sight, the lame walk, and the lepers are cleansed, and the deaf hear, and the dead are raised up, and the poor have the gospel preached to them. But you may ask, Why am I not demonstrating this completeness or fulfillment, since it has been proved to be true? It is because neither the statement nor the quotation is enough. The answer lies in realization.
Vous savez que la vérité ne triomphe pas de l'erreur, que Dieu ne guérit pas la maladie, qu'il n'existe pas de grande puissance pour vaincre ou détruire les puissances négatives. Vous comprenez maintenant le sens de l'unité. Une puissance sans adversaire, un seul être et aucun être humain, une seule loi, et cela, l'esprit. Cela constitue notre conscience de guérison. Est-ce clair pour vous? Alors, occupez-vous des affaires du Père afin que vous aussi puissiez dire « Allez montrer encore à Jean ce que nous entendons et voyons. Les aveugles recouvrent la vue, les boiteux marchent, les lépreux sont purifiés et les sourds entendent. Les morts ressuscitent et l'Évangile leur est prêché aux pauvres. »
All right. Thank you so much for joining in this short meditation, you could say. So great words. I think these were from the Heart of Mysticism. And so today we look at the chapter in the book, chapter in the conscious oneness chapter. And it is chapter, let me get it right. It is chapter 4, yeah. Yeah, that's great. So there's some expressions in there that drew my attention. So, and they have everything to do with something that I love to share, because in fact we listen to that in the meditation too, and it will come back later on too. So here it is. It's like the practice of this. It's like you practice this. You do everything you can, in fact, like you meditate, you read, you do your things that you do in order to stand still, in fact, with the material that's being offered, with some pretty revolutionary ideas that tell you that what you're seeing is not true, that what you're seeing is mesmerism, that, like all the forms of lack, limitation and all this is not your reality. And now that is something that we don't undo just like that. Most of us, at least, it's like it can be immediately changed, but we're sometimes not even aware of where it's coming from what we're thinking, or what is going on within us that we choose to try to survive, or that we choose to save ourselves, or that we choose to fix problems that we see, or that we choose to, in fact, separate ourselves off by attacking, or by, being in conflict. And all these things, it's like that. These are not attributes of God, you know this. But then it is like, how do you get into the practice of actually experiencing something else? Like Joel says in the meditation, we read this line too, is like, well, it does not come by reading books or by listening to 100 tapes. It does not come by that. So there is something else, how this works. Now that discovery is in fact coming to us with one word, in fact, and that word is realization. So it's like it needs to be realized in your consciousness. That's all. It does not need to be understood. It does not need to be figured out. No, it has to come into realization in you. In other words, you will have to become receptive to it. Now, how do you come receptive to it? In fact, what Joel shares is helpful, because he says, well, whatever you're perceiving here as a material universe or a world with objects and with automobiles, and he always has this range of examples. Like whatever you perceive there is in fact not what is really there. And there's not really a material universe. It's like that does not exist as we see it. So that is very helpful. And you might not realize that immediately, but it is very helpful to see that whatever I appear to make as a fact for myself, as this world, or this idea about my situation, or this problem I just perceived, or this future I see, or this fear that I'm experiencing, like all of these things that are so everyday life kind of things that come to you, are not what they appear to be. They're not, even though you use it. In fact, oh sure, yeah, you do use it. So it has a function. That's why it's there. You value it, otherwise it would not be there. Now this is a hard one, isn't it? It's hard to tackle, you could say. Well, let's make it a little bit more extreme in that sense. It's like that what I try to get here, try to understand and work it out and all of this, is in fact never going to work. So there you have it. Like that is never going to work. You're never going to make yourself into the perfect spirituality student. You're never going to be the perfect student. Or you're never going to be the one that did it all right. You know, like the rich man coming to Jesus, and he says, well, I followed all the rules and nobody was denying him. It's like he literally stood his point, you could say. He did literally everything that was asked of him in the books, in the ways to do it right. He did everything that he could. And he did it all completely. But was that what Jesus asked of him? No, not at all. So it's like, no, now here it is. So in fact, give everything that you have, give it away. All your investment in this place that in fact doesn't exist, give everything away. Literally give everything to the poor. That's what he said. It's like, well, give everything away and come back to me. And then this rich man left Jesus, and he didn't return to him. Like something happened to him later, as I recall, but like this is what we're dealing with. So apparently you have an investment in this world, otherwise you would not have a problem of letting it go. You think that if you let go of this world that you might die, or some kind of idea, or that it's a sacrifice to give up what you think you have. This is a learning tool, you could say, that is given to you to recognize that whatever you value here isn't it. It's not going to give you the safety and security that you're actually looking for, because it has in fact nothing to do with the love of God. That's why it doesn't work. So repeating the lessons over and over, falling into moments of distress, falling into moments of complete frustration, or trying to survive in your say perception of lack and limitation, trying to get better in your situations of thinking that there's something wrong with you, and this endless, well, you know the whole scenario. In fact, I'm telling you nothing that you don't know. It is just that keeps coming back, not as a torture, that God is torturing you. No, it comes back to you to show you you cannot find it here. This will never work. whatever you try, however many times you try with your great ideas to solve this, it's not going to be solvable. And there's a specific reason for that. And the main reason is that it holds no reality. Like, it has nothing to do with the love of God. Because every time that you're tempted to act, to do, you're already stepping into the denial of the love of God, thinking that you must do something to save yourself, or you must do something to save someone else, or you must do something to make your situation better, to fix where you find yourself in. So this is the lesson that we're learning. This is basically the only thing that's really happening up to the point that you start to realize the love of God, to realize that the love of God has no opposite. There's only one power. There's only oneness. And oneness is not separated into many layers or levels. No, it's very simple. It's oneness. It's one being, one self, one soul, one heart, one mind, one everything. It's like, it's oneness. That's why it's called this way. And that's a word, okay, but you know this. That's the great part. You know what I'm talking about. While you might not have a vivid recollection of what oneness is as an experience. So in fact, this is what we're asking for. Now Joel is writing things in chapter 4. So I'm going to bring that in as some kind of thing to look at. Because what is Joel actually saying about this? Oh yeah, we can never be without companionships, friends, relatives, transportation or lodging. We can never be incomplete in any way once we have realized that our oneness with God constitutes our oneness with every spiritual idea. And our oneness with the Father makes that all that the Father has is ours. So now it's interesting to see Joel use these examples. Like, that is also a bit confusing when you hear this. We can never be without companionship, friends, relatives, transportation or lodging. It's like, where does he get these examples from? So it's like, let's take a look at that. So, like, we can never be incomplete is in fact what he tries to say here. That's the second sentence. We can never be incomplete in any way once we have realized that our oneness with God constitutes our oneness with every spiritual idea. Now, what is a spiritual idea? That's also an interesting question. So there are two things. We can never be without the companionship, friends, relatives, and all this, once we have realized our conscious oneness with God and our conscious oneness with every spiritual idea. And everything that the Father has is mine. Now this is a deep one in that sense. So that's why I say, like, the examples that Joel gives can be a bit confusing, because in fact, if you realize that you're one with God, you come into an experience of your oneness with God, you recognize that everything is included. So then it's like, of course, that cannot be, you cannot never be without relatives, friends, and all this, but there is no such thing as the friends as I knew before, and the relatives as I knew before. And because I saw that within my own limited perspective. And I hang on to them for my safety. So it's like, now I see them anew. Isn't everyone then my best friend? Yeah, absolutely. I recognize that everyone is present, that there's no separation whatsoever. That all that the Father has is mine. Is like, yes, the Father created, and what he created is one with me. So this is good to know. So otherwise you get a certain phenomena, in fact, that happens. Because if you try to combine this into say, within your limited frame of reference, and try to figure that out in there, then you're mixing something up. Like the constitution of oneness is oneness with every spiritual idea. Now, what is a spiritual idea but you, like me, recognizing you as the Christ, as my Savior, as the Christ within me? Like if I recognize you as being created by God, I recognize that in myself too, because in fact that recognition is what oneness is. So then we're not talking about relatives and friends any longer, but a total recognition of that there's literally only one of us. There's no separate parts. So there are no others, in other words. So that makes it a spiritual idea. You see, in fact, and dissolve the idea that there are different entities, that there are others who can have ideas about you and all this. Like, no, that was part of the material world, thinking that there's, say, 7 billion people on a planet, and seeing that, or thinking that is reality in itself, which it isn't. So, see, the tendency, I called this just a moment ago phenomena, but it's like there's a tendency to put everything that you hear, even from your spiritual path, and try to combine it with your limited perspective on what is going on in your dream, you could say, and wanting that to be put in there. So that prevents you, in the end, it frustrates you, because it will not help you to come into a, say, moment of realization. Because literally you already built in an idea about what is oneness. Now, if you build in an idea in your consciousness about what oneness is, you're not able to experience it. So you, in other words, you need to be completely open and receptive. In fact, releasing all ideas that you have about God, oneness and realization, love of God, and all this light. It's like none of that will serve you. No, it's literally in the way for you to have a realization. Realizing something is in fact the easiest thing, because it is going to be given to you. There's no action on your part. There's only a release before you can receive. It's like your consciousness, your altar. We call this an altar, right? In the temple of you, there's an altar. Now, having this altar completely clean and undefiled, like nothing is on it, gives you the opportunity to be in open communication with your Creator, because literally that's where it is made for. So there's no doing. It's you having to clean your altar before you can receive something that is, say, this, pure innocence and all this. The pure joy, the totality of your being. Like, there's no space for anything else. If there's something else, then the something else becomes the main thing, and that cannot be. So you, with your clean altar, you could say, you're completely open to receive, and this is the only way it can come to you. So it's also, you cannot hold on to any ideas. I said it before, and this is just as a kind of a funny idea. It's like you're not able to go with full hands through the door into heaven, or the portal to heaven. You literally won't fit in. So that's one thing. That's a good reminder, isn't it? So then the whole idea of friends, relatives, sustenance or abundance and all this is guaranteed by you not having any investments in the way that you might think about it, in the way that you think it should come to you, not having any ideas about it. In fact, you come with completely open hands and open mind, open heart to your Creator. Then it can come to you. So that's on the side note, you could say, with the idea of conscious realization of oneness. So now I have more expressions, sharing those with you. Yeah, this is what we used in the meditation. It's like, but you may ask, why am I not demonstrating this completedness or fulfillment, since it has been proved to be true? It is because neither the statement nor the quotation is enough. The answer lies in realization. Now, why is this all happening then? All the stuff that is happening in my life? Then you could say the question, I just use questions, because you might say like, okay, so why am I not demonstrating this oneness? Or why am I not demonstrating abundance? Or why am I not demonstrating health? Why am I not doing this and this? It's like, well, this is in fact what I shared just before. It's like, that cannot happen as long as you have an idea about how it should look or how it should come to you, or that any of the problem that you're perceiving has any reality. See, if you invested in it, you could say, so you'll have to take your investment out. Otherwise, you cannot be open. Well, that's easier said than done. So that's why we call this like a moment of dying daily, a rebirth, however you want to call it. Like this is happening by a change of mind, by say inner change, in which you literally come to the point where you give up trying to solve it, and give up trying to fix it, or trying to invest in this separation, like in this limited idea about yourself. You stop investing in it for just a moment, you could say, for just a moment, in order to become open to receive conscious oneness. Because in fact, every limitation or anything that brings you into an fear mode or anxiety or depression or any of these, say, limited ideas, you could say, anything that brings you there is in the end nothing but, say, experiencing deeply that you find yourself being separated from source. And that cannot have reality. Like if God created you, one with Him, you cannot be separated. So this is, for a moment you just forgot that. For just a moment you in your insanity, you thought you could be separate from God. And within your consciousness is the solution. You don't have to go anywhere for it. Within your consciousness there's the solution to the fundamental problem of idea that you have, that you can be separate from what everything is. Now something can happen. Now I can be reborn by letting go these ideas, by releasing any kind of idea of limitation, recognizing and wanting to feel, in fact, that there's only oneness with God. If there's oneness with God, there cannot be something else. So it's like the love of God is everything. No matter what I appear to be experiencing, it is never what I think it is. But in order for me to see that, I must die in my humanhood, you could say. I must die, give up my ideas. I must, be born again. See, all these words are used so many times. So you might even have an image of that too, what that means. And that is not what it means either. This is so much easier and more lovely than you can possibly imagine. So in other words, there's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing to lose. There's nothing that can stop you, in fact, from realizing this. This is the only natural thing that you could possibly do. Yeah, this is, in fact, why I had to start with, I guess. My oneness with God constitutes my oneness with every spiritual idea. That's why I am never separate or a part of my spiritual good. And now Joel goes into worldly expressions of it, you could say. And that's again a bit confusing. Why am I never separate and apart from my, or that is why I never am separate and apart from my spiritual good, whether health, wealth, successful activity, cooperation, student dollars, a home, or transportation. Regardless of what form these spiritual ideas appear as humanly, I'm one with them because I am one with all the people of the world, because I am one with God, which spiritually is the embodiment of all. Now here we go. So this was, in fact, the main chunk of difficulty, because here is the temptation to say, see the spiritual good in your limited frame of reference back, you could say, reflected, is a real, I can say it's a real temptation to think like that you want to see it in form, in a certain form, then you would believe it. Like if it has this effect, yes, I know that's coming from God and I want it this way. And it's like, well, that does not really work that way. Regardless of what form these spiritual ideas appear as humanly, I'm one with them. And I see that. It's like, okay, yes, Joel, wait. Looking for the exit button, yeah. So this is an interesting idea because it's very fundamental. And here's an transfer, like however these spiritual ideas humanly appear as. Now this is an interesting point while Joel is saying that. Because if I look with my limited frame of reference to all this, I see that something has shifted and changed a little bit. So what am I going to do is that normally with my human mind I would say like, well, that's great. I'm not sure where it comes from, but it is very helpful at this point, because now I have more dollars in the bank, and yeah, so forget about the meditation. Now I'm good. For now I'm good. Thank you. You know what I'm saying? It's like, no, that's not really how this works. So how does that work then? You have experiences with it. You use this on a daily basis in your affairs, for sure. So how do you actually deal with that then? Can spiritual ideas be humanly appeared? Say, can they be coming to you as a human appearance? Now this is interesting. So the thing that I experience with this is this. Coming from an idea of oneness, what could I possibly fear? What could possibly lack? How could I possibly be tempted by human appearances in any form? Like that's literally impossible. It will not mean anything to me. Like, in fact, finally, in my experience of oneness, in my recognition of who I truly am, you could say, I'm free of the investment into all the human appearances, because I see them for what they are. It's like I'm not tempted to invest in it. And as soon as I do, I recognize, I feel the pain and the limitation of that, and I release it. Like that is the practice in the end. So now if I, for a moment, I have this situation in mind. It's like at one point in time, I was left with, in fact, a bottle of water and had nothing to eat and nothing to drink. I had water. That was one thing. So now what happened? I had like, well, I have no idea how to respond to any of this. It's like, I don't feel that something went wrong. I don't feel that I'm missing anything. I have no idea how to move further. Sure, I admit that. And I don't know. And being in that space, you could say, for a moment, not being really concerned with it, like I wasn't concerned with it, something happened. So somebody came up to me, literally out of nowhere, and said, "This is for you." So he handed over $100, and he said, like, "If you want me to bring it to a shop, I will bring it. I will bring you there," because I had no transportation either. And so here's the thing that happened. I suddenly realized, like, there's no separation. There's literally no separation. Like, I'm not missing anything here. Look at what just happened. It's like, it might appear as form. No, it was an actual confirmation that there is no separation. That my brother was here to help me out. Like, here it is. Come, I bring you there. Let's go to Walmart, get some whatever you need. I'm here. So the only thing that happened to me, in fact, was like, oh my God, thank you, God. Thank you, God. Not for the form, not for anything else. No, just for the confirmation that there absolutely is no separation whatsoever, no matter what appears to be my situation. That was the happening. Now that is what Joel means. But it is not so easy to read. That's why I put this on the table, so to speak, just to show this. Like, the response when something comes from spirit, you could say, if you get an answer, you could say, in your situation, the one thing that happens is that you're actually touched by spirit. Suddenly there's like, wow, it doesn't even matter how this is going to look. I feel a total trust and certainty. I feel completely supported. While everything that I see with my eyes wouldn't confirm that whatsoever. Like, I would be in a huge anxiety attack if I realized this as a human being, what my situation is. No, something happened. I don't know what it was. It was just a moment of openness to receive something else, to receive, say, the love of God, to feel the love of God, to feel that there's connectivity, there's continuous communication. There's literally nothing else, no matter what the situation appears to be. Well, that's my conscious oneness. I take that with me, and it is always there. It is, in fact, the only thing that can happen to you is that you think it might have an exception. Now, this cannot have an exception. If it is everything, it cannot have an exception. Here again is your total certainty given to you. Like, no, there's no exception to the love of God. It's right here. It includes everything, no matter what the appearance is. So I'm very grateful to share this. And I'm very grateful that Joel, brought this up, in fact, by writing it down in his way. And I'm just very grateful for everything that is given in all the forms. See, it's not about the book. No, it's about your own individual experience. It is literally by applying the ideas, by not doing, in fact, that things start to change. Because then you literally call in your celestial help. It is there, but if you already solved it, you will not be able to receive it. And if you already solved it, I better put it on under some quotes, because solving in a human way is not really solving, so the theme will come up again. But if you start to call on your celestial help, then you have no idea what's going to happen, but you know it's coming from oneness, it's coming from connectedness, it's from communication. I love it. It's just incredible. So now Joel shares with us, oh my God, Joel shares with us some conscious realization of oneness. It's one of the tapes, and I'm going to share it with you. So we'll listen to a tape for probably 20 minutes or so and see it from there. So thank you so much. Consciousness of Oneness. It's tape 287A. You might already have listened to it. So we'll listen to 20 minutes or something like that.
The reason that having established conscious oneness with God, that all good comes into my life or unfolds in my life, the reason is this: my conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all of God's creation. Now you can begin to realize what freedom means. When I am consciously one with God, I am consciously one with all spiritual being, whether appearing as person, circumstance, condition. And so it is that in my consciousness of my oneness with God, I find myself one with everything necessary to my fulfillment. And then those are drawn to me who in any way can be a part of my fulfillment, as long as I can be a part of their fulfillment, because it never works for the benefit of one alone. In the same way, everything of which I have need appears as it is needed in the same way, whether it is a book or a publisher of a book, whether it is transportation or accommodation, whatever it is, there is no need to take thought. There isn't even a need to know that we're going to have need of it. Often, more often than I can tell you, persons and things appear in my life of which I have no knowledge of their function or that they ever will have a function, and then later find out the importance of them to me, to the infinite way, or of my importance or function to them. In other words, this is a spiritual experience in which the human does not have to take thought. The human does not have to influence anything or anybody. The individual has only to live constantly and consciously in his oneness with God. Now, having discovered that, and having found that my sole need is to live in that conscious oneness, naturally the hope, the joy, the pleasure comes in sharing that and imparting that understanding or wisdom or truth to those who may be interested in it. But you see, having found freedom through this, there is no wish or will to hold anyone under any obligation or bond or in any tie. Now, it is a wonderful thing to know that since I and my Father are one, and since the Father says, Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine, It is a wonderful thing to be able to abide in that truth, to have periods of meditation or contemplation, and inwardly to live in that promise or assurance, and then not look outside to get, to secure, to attain, or to achieve, but only look outside for the joy of sharing. So it is then that our students right from the start understand this point, that not now, not any time in the years since this message has been before the public, not in any conceivable future time, will there be anything for them to join, and now you know the reason. And I do want every student to understand the reason. There's nothing personal about it. It is only that I know the joy of living in this conscious relationship of oneness with God. And I know of the spiritual unfoldment that takes place, the joy, the freedom, the harmony, the infinite abundance of it. And I would like to see all men and all women and all children enjoy that. And I know this, that to hold anyone in any bondage of relationship whatsoever would be to deprive them of that much of their freedom. It is for this reason that in our classwork I have said to the students, if for any reason some misguided student of the infinite way, in my presence or in my absence, should ever attempt to organize it or ask you to join it, please say no. Please say no, no matter who they may be or why. For there is no need for you to be tied to anyone but God. There is no need for you to be under any relationship at all with anyone but God. Maintain your conscious spiritual relationship with God, and you will be a better husband or wife or brother or sister or child or parent or citizen of your community or state or nation than you ever would be by signing a written oath or taking an oral obligation. Why? Ah, yes, there is a mystery as well as a miracle. Once you have attained a conscious relationship with God, you cannot violate your integrity without it cutting your own throat. This is the mystery and the miracle. No one can violate their own integrity once they have attained a conscious relationship with God. No one can ever run out on an obligation, whether it is of a commercial nature, marital, parental, filial, or that of citizenship. Each one is under an inner impulsion to fulfill their own inner integrity. Their course of action may not always agree with the standards of the world. That isn't the important thing, that we live up to the standards of the world, as long as we are not violating our own inner integrity. And that inner integrity holds one rigidly. Therefore, it isn't necessary to be bound by an obligation. It isn't necessary to be bound by a written paper. Some of you have read that letter, Lesson to Sam, and now it's available in a little pamphlet. Some of you do not know that Sam is my stepson. I only use the word stepson so that you know that I'm not speaking of a blood son, because in all respects he is my son. But I must identify him as stepson to explain this to you, that when I came into his family and he came into mine, we had a talk. And it was brought about by something or other that was said between us, and he said, "My scout oath." And then I said, "Sam, let us never again have that scout oath. Between you and me, we don't need any oaths. I'll never break my word to you, and you might just as well make up your mind. There's no occasion for you to break your word to me, and therefore you never have to give an oath. Your word will always be good enough for me, and you'll make your word good and keep it good by never violating it. But if you violate it, giving a scout oath won't make it binding, and it won't make me believe you. The only thing that makes me believe you is you are living up to your word, and that's all that will ever give you confidence in me, if I do not violate my word to you. This is freedom. This is freedom, because we are not bound by any human obligation to each other. He is bound to himself, never to violate his truthfulness, and I am bound to myself, not to violate my truthfulness. And this must be our relationship with each other throughout the world. Not that we need oaths of allegiance, not that we need a written word, only that we attain this inner conscious union with God, and then find that we have no capacity to violate our integrity. That capacity has been taken from us. That is why, and I've said this before, the United Nations and all such activities serve their purpose for the time being, but they cannot be of permanent value, because all humans sooner or later break their words, break their bonds, break their obligations, when it sufficiently serves their purpose, individually or collectively. But the individual or the group of individuals who have made their contact with God can never violate their obligations, their duties, or their relationships. Therefore, the ideal society, whether a group as small as we are in this room, or whether a nation of people, an ideal society is one in which the members have attained in meditation that conscious contact with their source. I have never met a mystic who was dishonest. I have never met a mystic who had any joy or profit in lying or deceiving. And yet I have never met a mystic who lacked for anything. A mystic is one who has attained conscious union with God. Even a mystical experience, even if it hasn't made one a full and complete mystic, and one need never be concerned about being a full and complete mystic. The entire history of the United States reveals only 2 in 175 years. And so we need not be concerned with whether or not we attain full mysticism. Just the attaining of an occasional mystical experience, such as we attain in meditation, this is sufficient to keep us in our integrity with ourselves, with our families, with our business, with our communities, and ultimately around the world. The reason that this is one of the most important principles of the infinite way is this. Heretofore, in metaphysical practice or teaching, it has not been thought unseemly to attempt to demonstrate things, demonstrate employment, or demonstrate supply, or demonstrate a parking place, or demonstrate an automobile, or demonstrate a vacation or a holiday, or demonstrate health. But in the message of the infinite way, this is unseemly. More so because it's unnecessary. It is this, the revelation of this principle, that has set the pattern for us in demonstrating a life harmonious. Our demonstration is the demonstration of God's presence, the demonstration of conscious oneness with God, or the demonstration of God realization. This is our only demonstration. Let me illustrate that in just a single instance. Those of you who have been attending these lectures notice that they are spontaneous, unrehearsed, not subject to a quiz program at all. At times, students have asked me if, in my meditations before coming on the platform, if I meditate to receive a message, or to receive the message which is to be given. And the answer is no. Under no circumstances. The meditation is to attain the realization of God. If before I come on the platform, whether it's 5 minutes before or whether it is 6 hours before, that is of no importance, as long as I attain the realization of God's presence, when I come to the platform, God will speak. Now, what is to come forth, I haven't the faintest idea of, nor have I any interest in it. It isn't my function to have a message. If there is to be a message, it will have to be God's message. I feel exactly like Jesus. This doctrine is not mine, but his that sent me. Therefore, I need not have a message. I need only be an instrument through which the source of the message can speak. Therefore, when I am consciously aware of the presence of God, I can go on the platform. Now, if God speaks, well and good. If not, we could sit in the silence. You would receive your message just the same, because you haven't come here to hear a message from a man. You didn't come here to find out what a man knows about truth. If you understood this message at all, you knew that you were coming here to receive truth. Truth itself, not a message about truth. Truth itself, an impartation of truth. God really doesn't need my mouth, so that there could be times, and a couple of times there have been times, when there were no words, when we sat mostly in meditation. But I heard no one complain or ask for their money back. Well, they weren't charged any. That's all right, too. I forgot that. Now, it is the same in my work with businessmen, with salesmen, and having been a businessman, a great many businessmen and women come to me. I don't ask them to meditate for a sales argument or meditate for an idea for their business. Resist the temptation to meditate for anything. Meditate for the realization of God's presence. And then if you have to go out to buy or to sell or to write or to compose or to paint, you'll find that the necessary gift, talent, art is there. The idea, whatever it is that is necessary. Life, as it has unfolded itself to me, consists only of living in the conscious presence of God and letting God live its life in its own way, utter itself in its own language. And I've had strange experiences along that line. In the writings you'll find strange things, things that could never have come out of my mind. This new book, which is in my hands less than a week, I'm on my 6th reading of it today. By tonight I will have completed the 6th reading of it. And the reason is that I'm finding more new things in it than I ever dreamed that I knew. There are things in there that really startle me when I read them. But so it is when I hear some of these classes played back. And I wonder how they came through without my catching them. But it is so because the Master rightly knew that I can of my own self do nothing. It is the Father within me that doeth the works. I do nothing of myself. And the meditation then, in which God realization takes place, in which an awareness of a presence takes place, or an inner click, or release from human care or anxiety, that meditation results in the presence of God appearing as fulfillment. And that is why I love so much the Bible statement that in thy presence is fulfillment. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom.
To function practically is always a bit different when you start to listen and dive into it. So I hope that happens to you too. It's really lovely. It's not always directly practical, but it is beautiful to connect with what Joel is sharing, and seeing that at work, you could say, is beautiful. Thank you so much. So, like I said, I wanted to share something about the chapters, the essential chapters that Joel gives to us, in fact. So there's a new book, and not that I want you to buy all these books, but this one just came out with the essential chapters, and this is what I'm going to use in the new series. And I like it that they're finally in a book, because you could find them in maybe in the books that you have. Like there's all kinds of tapes and transcripts where they are derived from. But so having this in one book is great. Now we're using this in a very specific way because it is almost like a tape group, but a little bit different. So there's a bit more, say, looking to the essence of what Joel is sharing. Like, we didn't really ask this question yet, which is this. What is the infinite way, really? You know, we didn't really ask that yet. We are in, we do, we listen, we do all kinds of things, but what is actually the infinite way? And to find answers to that question, we have, I think, 9 chapters of it to really deepen that idea and to recognize your own practice and your own in fact, realization that is given in diving into these chapters. So on Friday, we will have a meeting. I think it's starting at 9 a.m. Central Time, where we introduce this. It's noon Central Time, where we introduce the book and the meetings that we're going to have. So there's 1 hour meetings. And on Saturday, the 4th of May, we have our first meeting. And that is happening 9 a.m. Central Time, so that's 7 a.m. Pacific Time. Or, depends on where you live, of course. 4 p.m. for Central European Time. And so on. So if you have any questions about the timing of it all, you can go to the website ewhelp.com and find out. And this is also the place where you can sign up for it. And it is really great. You might have read the chapters, the essential chapters, and kept them close to your heart. Maybe you know them better than your own name, as Joel suggests. But it doesn't matter to look at it with completely new eyes. Since you are changing in this process, you come to a deeper, connection with what is actually being shared. And you want to be reminded of that whenever you can. Now this class is made for that. So that's why I'm offering it to you. So you're welcome to join or to come to the introduction class on Friday and check it out if it's something for you. You're wholeheartedly invited, and to me it's totally interesting to start an introducing the infinite way class. So anyway, that's thank you so much for today, for your presence, for your participation in this, and your say, giving to this. This is so wonderful. Thank you for everything, and hope to see you next week. Thank you so much. Or maybe in another meeting. You're welcome. Thank you so much. Bye for now.